Okay, hopefully now on the telephone right now, we should have Mr. Jason Disley. Are you there, sir?
Hello.
Hello.
You all right?
Yeah, not too bad at
Hello.
all. Yes, hello. We're not having a great time with this at the moment, are we? He's laughing because he feels very embarrassed because we're in the 21st century. Neither of us have got telephones that seem to be working properly this evening. Jason, can you hear me?
I can hear you absolutely fine, loud and clear. So I don't know what's going on with the line, but I can hear you.
Excellent, lovely. Right, okie dokie. So, hopefully, if it all works out rather well, we do have Jason on the telephone with us right now. The way it's going, it might end up with smoke signals or something, but there we go. Right, so Jason is a writer, a poet, a mover and a shaker, a man about town without no phone signal, and a dandified clown, soul stylist, and a mod. Wow. Now, that is something to... I just work out roughly about radio DJ and I stop there because I don't want to give too many accolades to my name. But let's start off then. Jason, you're a writer. Is that right?
That's correct. I've written a novella and several collections of poetry, and I've got a second novel in the hands of a publisher as we speak.
Wow. Okie dokie. Now, obviously, I've just gone on to amazon.co.uk. Obviously, other websites are available. And I've just noticed there's a few books here that you've got. So if you want to find out a bit more about Jason Disley and his publishing books and everything, and some of these are, novels, and some of these are indeed poetry as well. So I'm just going to pull one out here, which is The 7-Day Fall at £6.51p, I think it is, or 91p. Hang on, let me get this right. Yeah, £6.91p. We nearly diddled you by 40p there. Tell us a little bit about this book, if you may, please.
Yeah, it's a novel that's set in Manchester during 1965.
Okay.
I suppose in a way it's a bit like a pulp fiction tale. It's a detective story, but it's set in the seedy underworld of Manchester back in the mid-60s.
Right. Okay. And can you tell us anything else without obviously any spoilers in there, please?
Interesting array of characters. Some interesting locales, and there's even some gigs that appear in the novel that actually really took place.
Oh, right. Excellent.
Including a performance by Junior Walker and the All Stars at the Twisted Wheel.
Wow!
So it's got a lot of references that a lot of your listeners will probably appreciate.
Indeed, and obviously some fine music from there, from that that era of the year of in the 60s. Obviously, the Twisted Wheel is become infamous. Obviously. Amongst us as obviously the followers of that style of music, that genre of music. So what made you sort of turn to that style of music yourself, and obviously writing about it, and obviously later on doing poetry as well? But what sort of made you, what made you sort of turn to that music and that genre?
Well, basically, I mean, I was born in 1969, so... when it was the mod revival in '79, I was just a touch too young to really appreciate it at the time.
Yeah.
But throughout my childhood, my dad had quite an extensive record collection, and was heavily into blues and soul and jazz. So we always had that in the house, and funnily enough. I think he probably owns the most complete archive of Alexis Corner's Sunday blues and soul radio show that used to be on a Sunday evening, because he used to record every single episode religiously. and through listening to that, it sort of kind of generated a lot of interest in that style of music.
That's
But like
fantastic.
any young person, as I reached my teenage years, you
Yeah.
kind of go off, you try to find your own path a little bit. So I veered away from that, got involved in, got into the rave scene, as a lot of people my age did, and
Yeah.
starting off with, I used to go to the hacienda back in the sort of mid '80s, and then by the '90s I moved down to Devon, but was sort of promoting sort of club nights down here, and was into that, but kind of like the house scene and the rave scene, and like everything, it all splinters up and goes different ways, and I grew up with. And also
Yeah.
I was influenced by the acid jazz scene at the time as well. So, that for me was the start of me going back to what I was brought up with,
Indeed. And a good thing about
that's
music
and
as
that
well, I mean, obviously, going with what you're saying there, Jason, is that you are free to choose what you want to hear, what your ears are comfortable listening to. Obviously, what your brain is telling you, which is good, which is not so good. And the thing is, with music, obviously,
yeah
unless you're really right up to date with your top 40, you can go back. This is unbelievable now. We've got such a vast machine called the internet
yeah
now that we can go back. We've got loads of outlets to listen to music. We can purchase music. We can listen to what we want to listen rather than hiking it down to your local record shop. But to be honest with you, back in my
yeah
day, I used to love flicking through the vinyls. I had it off to a very decent
oh
art.
totally.
I
I
could do
mean,
it
like my
one-handed,
dad, I mean, I still buy vinyl now, I mean, I love it,
Mhm.
so
So, yeah, I mean, obviously
yeah
going back to vinyl, you still buy it, yeah?
Yeah, I still buy a bit here and there, and sort of search it out and stuff. Obviously, there aren't so many record shops prevalent down here now, so
No.
I end up buying stuff on the internet. But I still purchase records when I can. I mean, I listen to a lot of jazz. Um, and soul, and and blues. So I mean, they're the three main genres that I like to listen
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
But I listen to tons of stuff. I mean, one of my recent purchases. I don't know whether you've heard of them or not. Black Pumas. Have you heard them?
I've heard
They've got an
of
album.
them. I don't think I've actually heard, from them. There we go. That's the
Yeah,
way, a terminology I think
but
I would choose to use.
I've got an album by them, and the lead singer he sounds a bit like Sam Cooke,
Oh,
so it's absolutely
fantastic.
fantastic.
Well, it's got to sound good because obviously that is a brilliant reference as long as it marries up. Obviously, everyone's ears
Yeah,
are
yeah,
different, but to use Sam Cooke, I mean, you've got to go out on a limb there. So obviously, Jason, we're trusting you on that one. So everyone now, look out for Black Pumas, and obviously, most importantly, see if he does sound a little bit like Sam Cooke.
yeah.
Okay, let's go back to you then, and obviously Sam Cooke, fine artist and everything, and we'll talk about him another day. So, married, are you?
Yes, I'm married, got kids, everything.
You've done the whole
I
nine
mean,
yards then.
yeah, that's the main reason why I stayed in Torquay. I met a local girl, so and that's it. Beautiful part of the world,
Beautiful part of the world with
and
no aerial masks for a very
yeah.
decent mobile phone. Oh, dearie me. So is that Shirley? Is it a Shirley Disley?
Yes,
There we
that's
go.
correct. Yeah,
Go on,
yeah.
say hello to the wife because she'll beat you up if you
I
don't.
will do. She's not quite home from work yet. She should be home shortly though.
No worries, no worries. Don't forget, when this goes out and then it goes out again on Mixcloud, you never know, she might be having a day off, so say hello anyway.
Yeah.
There we go. And you got kids as well. Obviously, don't name them and shame them, but most importantly, are do they follow in your sort of musical and literal sort of path, or are they doing their own things?
They're pretty much doing their own things, to be honest, at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, my youngest, he seems to have a broader taste in music, and has surprised me a couple of times with little things that he's taken an interest in.
Of course, yeah.
Which is great. I've got another son who's like a typical 14-year-old at the moment. He's kind of into his. It's not necessarily what I'm into, but he might come round.
You never know. He might listen to some proper music one day. You never know. But each to their own. That's a good thing about music. So you've, as you say, we're looking through obviously your Facebook page here. Now you've studied as a Bachelor of Arts in English with a history as well at the Manchester Metropolitan University. Was that since leaving school, or was that a bit more recent?
It was later. I went as a mature student.
I'm pleased you said that.
Because I moved down here, met my wife, and then when we sort of like kind of ran about. It was 2000 that I actually went to university as a mature student.
Yeah,
just trying to better myself really and get and do something. And I thoroughly enjoyed those 3 years up there. And did that.
Good for you. I mean,
flirted with doing teaching afterwards, but decided that wasn't really me.
No.
I just wanted
to I think you've got to have real broad shoulders to get into teaching. And I'll be honest with you, we all sort of criticise our class teachers with our kids and things like that, but would I want their job? No way.
No.
Definitely not. Definitely not. So,
exactly.
No, I really take my hat off to anyone that feels that, they can go back into the classroom as such. I mean, obviously, it's a totally different thing at university for those that are looking to possibly better their own careers by doing a sort of university full-time course. I thoroughly recommend it. I've done it myself. And I thought I was going to be stuck out like a very sore thumb. Did you feel the same way when you went back to university as a mature student?
Yeah, I mean, I did initially. I mean, obviously, I felt like I was probably one of the older students there,
Did they call you granddad behind your back and all of that? I had all of that.
It was. It wasn't too bad actually.
No.
I used to just ride in with my Parker on, go and sit at the back of the lecture hall and do my work, so it was fun.
Oh, fantastic. And now I love that. You rode in now, so I trust that you have got yourself a little two-wheeler scooter, am I right?
I used to have. I haven't at the moment. So I'm in between, and it's really frustrating. But there we go. It will happen eventually. I'll get another one. So.
Excellent. Right. Okay. The most important question then to you: would it be Lambretta or Vespa? Which one would you choose?
I would probably go for a Vespa purely because I find the maintenance easier.
Well, yeah, they don't break down, do they? I mean, no disrespect to Lambretta at all. I love the style, I love the look of Lambretta, but unfortunately they do carry an unhealthy tag along with them that you are pushing them around more than you are actually on them, which is a real shame.
Well, this is it. I'm not really that mechanically minded, so, for me, it was go for the easier option, even though I like the way the Lambretta looks, without a doubt,
And I think they've got more of a distinctive sound as well. Obviously I've been to many scooter rallies myself, probably the same as your good self. And the Vespas do it nicely, but I think the Lambrettas do it just that little bit more, look, style and sound.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's go back to you then. And obviously, you studied as in English and with history. Now, obviously, why history? I can understand English. Obviously, writing poems and books, and you need to have English. So why history?
It helps. It's kind of arming myself with the skills of research, I think. If you learn history, then when it comes to writing, you have at your fingertips those resources so that you can actually
of course, it goes now,
get on with it, and try and get it right. So
absolutely.
that's why I chose history.
Indeed. Now, if someone wanted to be an author or indeed poetry and things like that, but they wanted to get some research in, what would you say if you was to use the websites, I mean, obviously it's very easy now to do that, what 3 websites would be your sort of like go-to websites to get more information about a certain topic? Let's say, for instance, let's talk about the mod revival back from 1978, 1979. Of course, you can Google that. Obviously, where would you go? Where would you start? If you just say, for instance, you wanted to write a short. Okay, let's go with a novel, a story.
I think I would kind of initially look for books that on the topics that I'm interested in.
Yeah.
And then obviously see if there's any links to reviews about those books, finding out which books have the kind of feedback that kind of makes you think, oh, this is one worth checking out. And then I would probably purchase the book and then sort of read through and again refer to their bibliographies and so on, and just keep on going and then touching base on all those snippets that you want, bit like the whole mod thing, you kind of you take what you want out of things and you cherry pick and do what you need to do, so yeah. That's how I kind of approach it.
Okie dokie. Now, do you do it in sort of an orderly fashion, or you're a bit all over the place? What makes for a good? What would be better?
I am chaotic. I am literally all over the place. I think because I have my fingers in so many pies and I've got so much going on. Yeah. I just dip and dive, all the time. That's what I am. I'm a dip and diver.
Oh, why not, indeed? I mean, a little bit of variety, and as long as, obviously, it all comes together and it makes some sort of sense, then it's all good. That's how I look at it. Right, now, looking at your profile picture, and obviously I'm looking at the introduction more than anything else. Brilliant picture, by the way. I love the picture of the flat cap and the little goatee beard there, and I think they're Ray-Bans. They are Ray-Bans, I think they are, but they look very stylish anyway. Yeah. Now, I've got here... that obviously we've discussed your writing, we've discussed a little bit of the poetry. Now, a mover and a shaker, a man about town. Obviously, I think there's a Weller reference there, man about town, possibly. But this one I've not heard of before, a Dandified Clown. Now, what's one of those?
It was just me being a bit silly. I'm kind of like. I'm very well known for being into my clothes and being stylish, I suppose. Yeah. And to some of my friends, a couple of my friends, they say I'm like Mr. Ben. I have an outfit for every occasion.
Now, just to reference that, Mr. Ben was a 1970s, showing your age now, TV show with a popular character called Mr. Ben. It was a cartoon character, and if by magic the shopkeeper appeared in some sort of retail outlet, which was a fancy dress shop. Mr. Ben never paid any money and wandered into a magic changing room and changed his clothes into whatever clothes that the mysterious shopkeeper used to give him. It could be a Viking suit one week, it could be a scuba diving suit the next. I think Mr. Ben had fetishes of trying other people's clothes on. When you look back at it now, I think, grammatically and technically, everything was wrong about that, and it was aimed at children. But we moved past that. Obviously, children are very innocent, and they don't realise cross-dressing wasn't a thing back then. So anyway, that was Mr. Ben. And I've done that all over the top of my head, by the way, so I'm obviously showing my age as well.
Yeah, I think, it's the kind of like, I like to look my best a lot of the time.
And why not?
I think, and I think that's one of the things that attracts me to the whole mod scene. It's the music, it's the style, it's the just general outlook on life.
Well,
and,
absolutely.
I'm very into like I said, I've mentioned jazz, and I'm kind kind of like I like the original modernists from the sort of like the 50s, mid 50s and everything.
Well,
and
absolutely,
as far as
yeah.
the poetry concerned, from the same period, I like the beat poets from America from the 1950s, and I think it's a combination of the two that is evolved in me and has made me into where I am now.
Okay. Now I know what a poet. I know what a poet does. Obviously, he puts together something that rhymes.
Beat poet.
Okay, so a beat poet. What's one of those? I've never heard that expression before.
Right, a beat poet is the original beats were writers like Jack Kerouac, Allen Ginsberg, William Burroughs, Gary Snyder, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, people like that.
Okay.
Who in America in the post-war period were the counterculture movement, sort of just prior to what became known as beatniks.
Right.
And the mod scene is in itself has elements of that beatnik thing running through it.
I see that. Yeah.
Slightly counterculture and so on.
Now,
and so
is that where the Americanism side comes from as well, Jason? The beatnik bit, is that some sort of a term to like a socialite from America? Is that something on that line?
Beatnik, it was a term coined about, it was at the time of when Sputnik went up, the Russian rocket, and the beats, and they saw the beats as sort of, they treated a lot of the beats as the Americans thought of them as being communist and kind of socialists and very party people who were lazy, didn't do anything yet. They created fantastic pieces of art, poetry, and so on, and were really, really creative and were.
Okay, excellent. Right, lovely. That gives us an indication, an idea of what's all that about as well. That's fantastic. Now, I'm just looking on your webpage again. I've just flicked over again to amazon.co.uk just for another quick plug there for you, Jason. You can buy all of your books on there. They're in paperback. I've got one here, £6.91, and it's called Perfect Paperback. I don't know if that's an actual, as it's in perfect condition, or indeed it's an actual publisher called Perfect Paperback. And also you do Kindle editions, which obviously for those that are not au fait is a digital, digital that you can get it onto your smart device, tablet, etc. Now, obviously going along that path there, have you ever thought about audiobooks? Because like myself, sometimes, if you're driving, you're doing a long journey, you don't always want to listen to music. Yes, Cookie said it. He doesn't always want to listen to music. You might want to listen to some speech-based programming. Now, books are very good if they're read to you. I think you can read it to yourself, but...
Well, I mean, with the... certainly with the novel side of it, it's something that I would be interested in.
Would you voice it yourself, though, Jason?
Sorry?
Would you voice it yourself, or would you get an actor, or would you do it yourself?
Oh, I don't know. It depends on who publishes the book, really.
Indeed.
It would be wonderful to have an actor read. I would probably quite happily read myself as well, though, because when it comes to the poetry, because I perform a lot of the poetry as well.
Of course, yeah, and we're going to get onto that very shortly. Well, may I make a suggestion that we get Michael Phillips, which is one of your very good friends on Facebook.
Very renowned for performing.
Yes, he's renowned for everything, of his clothes, his scooter. So I think, if we do get him on board, he would be good at narrating and reading your material for a possible, you never know, for a possible audio book. He doesn't know I said that.
That would be interesting.
Absolutely. He's got quite huge followers. He's got lots of people there, such as yourself. Now, before we go into the last little bit of what we're going to talk about here today, Jason, just to remind everyone, we've got Jason Disley on the telephone, if you've only just joined us here at Target Radio. And this is a pre-record one, because unfortunately Jason works. Well, not unfortunately, but he does other things, and it can't always get online, and he can't always get. Unfortunately, you can't even get a good mobile phone signal where he lives down in the nice area of the UK. But please, by all means, check him out on Facebook. It's Jason Disley, Disley. You're on Twitter as well.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter as Disley Rascal.
Oh, I'm loving that. I'm loving that little twist on the name there. And what other social media sort of sites do you work from or use to obviously get your books and your poetry over?
I mean, like Twitter and Facebook are the obvious ones that I use. I post a little bit of stuff on Instagram as well. I have set up a YouTube page, but it's not particularly great yet because I've not got any really professional videos on there yet. But there's a couple of little performances that I've done that I've recorded myself.
Excellent.
Of poems and stuff. So people might want to check it out.
Brilliant. And talking of checking it out then, let's go on with the last piece we're going to talk about today, which is an album, Speakeasy. Now, the name sort of gives it away a little bit. Is this more of a sort of a poetry album, or is it a bit musical, or is it a combination of both?
Well, it's a spoken word album, but it's got some fantastic music that was written especially for it by a gentleman called Rick Blackman, who back in the day worked with acid jazz for a little bit with Eddie Pillar, and he's also he's written various things in the past, and he just heard something that I posted one day and just contacted me out of the blue and said, "Do you want to record an album?" And I went, "Yeah, all right."
Oh, that
so,
is just
so that's it.
That is fantastic. That he comes to you rather than you go to him.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really fortunate as far as that's concerned. I mean, I've put my stuff out there, but it's like any artist, you bear yourself, you put stuff out there for people to listen to it. You don't know whether people are going to like it or not. You just hope to, and so far I've had a lot of encouragement, and people have seemed to be enjoying what I'm trying to do.
Well, that is absolutely fantastic. I've just googled him as well, Rick Blackman. And obviously I've just been onto his discovery and songs from Discogs and things like that, which is what I go to when I'm looking up things. He's on Twitter, everyone, ladies and gentlemen, at Rick Blackman GA1. I think he's on Facebook and other bits and pieces as well. Check him out. He's obviously got some really good history behind him. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, Rick Blackman provided with the music and everything. Just go through the tracks very quickly. I think is there 14 on there altogether?
Yeah, that's right. There's 14 tracks on the album.
So we've got Introduction and number one, which obviously gives you an idea. It's an introduction. Is that to music or is that just yourself?
That's just a little musical piece that Rick's written just to set the scene, and it's got Serge Hoffman from French Boutique introducing the album, and in that it's almost like a concept album. It's kind of like a live performance in a jazz club or in a club in Paris.
Okay, yeah, I see where you're going with this. So it's more easy listening rather than sort of like a go-to down your local pub.
It's very different, and it's got a really good mix of different types of music on it.
Brilliant.
All composed by Rick. All the words are written by me, and the Jason Brummel, another author, has written the kind of like a scene, a little bit like the Cappuccino Kid did for the Style Council albums.
I thought it was going there.
Bit. Yeah, so that's quite interesting as well.
Indeed.
To read. It kind of sets the scene so that you read that and then you put the album on and you have a listen and hopefully you enjoy it.
Brilliant.
And,
now, obviously, it's something a little different though, isn't it, as well? Because it's not your usual sort of concept album where you're sort of singing your, singing your head off. You're actually speaking on this, hence the Speakeasy name for it. So you're actually just speaking. Now, is it sort of a poetry like an ordinary poetry? poetry, or is it more sort of spoken words?
Well. I mean, it's spoken word. It's what I call my modernist beat poetry.
Right. Now, that is a path that I've never gone down before.
I've coined that term myself.
And why not?
It's me. Yeah, I mean, I'm it's poems that I've written over the past 20 odd years. I mean, like the oldest poem on there was first published in 1996.
And which one was that?
That's the New Beat Generation.
Excellent. I was drawn to that straight away because obviously it's got a very mod-related name there. Obviously, Beat, Generation, etc. Yeah. So that's your oldest one on there. That is fantastic. The look of it, though, I mean, obviously, I've just looked at your, some of the cover work on it and everything else. Now, is that the Eiffel Tower or indeed is that the Blackpool Tower? Or does it matter?
More likely a representation of the Eiffel Tower, purely because of having contributions by I've already mentioned Serge from French Boutique, but also Gabriella actually performs on the album herself. She features on a couple of tracks, but one track in particular, Breathless, is
track number 10
in French.
Oh, right. And that's track number 10. Obviously, we've got a couple of little skirlines on there. So
and that's and I'm really proud of that poem. Actually, I mean, like it's kind of slightly inspired by the 1960 movie, also called Breathless, that was directed by French movie maker Jean-Luc Godard. And
okay,
and it kind of inspired the poem, and then when I was talking to Rick about it, he came up with this wonderful, wonderful French cinematic tune to go with it, and we both agreed that even though in English it's very good, just to add that sense of realism to it and authenticity. And we got Gabriella to perform it, and it's brilliant. I love it.
Oh, that is brilliant. And I think you said, I know I've seen some pictures, and of course I've read some of your bits and pieces on here as well, that you've actually took this out on tour. Is that right? Or you're going to?
I wouldn't say on tour exactly, but I've performed it the other week at a poetry evening that I run monthly, called Speakeasy Blinders, which is
I like that.
Peaky Blinders
bar.
Yeah,
a little spin on there.
Yeah, and then I'm very pleased to say that I'm going down to Newquay weekend after next for the Sensation Weekender, and with Grimmers and Dave Grimshaw and Little Miss Mojo and everybody.
Oh, that is fantastic. Now, you was
I'm really, really looking forward to.
And I've just saw here a little post here from Nathan James Lebas on your site.
Yes,
and it's saying, have a good one in Newquay, Jason. And it's got a picture of you with your Peaky Blinders flat cap. You're obviously got your little notes there, and you are dressed to the nines, sir, in your very stripy blazer and tie. And obviously you're known now as the Beat Poet. Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, like a lot of people could have kind of like, I suppose in a way I've labelled myself by wearing my influences on my sleeve, and
both of your sleeves,
people are buying into it.
and I'll tell you what, it's actually different. It's a great concept, and I think it just sort of bridges the gap between, how can I say this, from obviously musical nutters that love their music to the more refined, shall we say, sip a glass of wine that want something a little bit more laid back. I think you're sort of bridging the gap there a little bit. You're in the middle, I think. I think you're appealing for both sides of the coin, really. For me, poetry has to be light.
It's certainly niche. But,
absolutely.
It's just something different.
So I was saying, you've bridged the gap there. Yeah, so from there, you bridged the gap.
It's me just being me and putting something out there that is a little bit different. In some ways, I want it to be refreshing. In other ways, I want, I'm just sharing my work and just hoping people enjoy it,
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, taking it out on stage, you are a little bit exposed there. But so far, I mean, obviously, as you said, you took it down to your local one. And how did that go down in front of the crowds, the masses out there? How did it go down for you, Jason?
Yeah, no, it went down really well. I also did last October. I did a handful of the poems at the Heavy Soul showcase.
Oh, right. Yep.
That Adam Cooper put on with the Deep Six, the Morning After,
Yep.
the See No Evils, and everything. And that was a fantastic experience. And performing to a more sort of mod-centric audience rather than at a spoken word evening where it's full of other people that are interested in poetry.
Gotcha.
So it's a different kind of audience, and it's really good to be able to share that in front of a new audience and
definitely
see what they think of it.
So far, so good. I'm going to finish it up now, but what I would like to ask you is, what do I need to ask you now, really? Have I missed anything out, or is there something else that you would like to mention or promote on your own behalf there?
All I can say is, by all means, please go and buy the album and have a listen. I hope your listeners find it interesting and enjoy it. The novel 7 Day Fool is a book that I'm particularly proud of. There's elements in there that I really enjoyed writing about, and I've written a sequel called Take It or Leave It, which I hope will see the light of day sometime in the next year or so. Depending on how long it takes for publishers to accept it and then get through their schedules and bring it out.
They're very hard to please, aren't they? These publishers.
Plugging away and hope things strike a chord. I'm writing another book at the moment called The Angel in Alabaster, which is what I term pulp fiction poetry or film noir verse, which I wrote another book called Beat to a Pulp, which again was a pulp fiction story.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But all in verse form. And this sequel is like that, and that's kind of set in mid-20th century America, so it's a little bit different, sort of gangsters, femme fatales, and a lot of intrigue. So
well, how about this one then? How about this one, Jason? You can get Beat to a Pulp now. If you're an Amazon Prime customer, it's £7.99. It's free postage and packing. You can get it in 2 days' time on Amazon Prime. How about that? That's not bad, is it?
Not bad at all.
Fantastic. And of course, you're never going to retire on selling books, but you've still got to feed the children. So please, please, if you have got a few coppers and you want to get something a bit different, can I please say that Jason Disley is not different, but what he does is. That, I think, is the most polite and professional way of describing your good self. You are, sir, very much a dedicated follower of fashion, and I thought at the end of this interview we will play the Kinks, because you did mention the Kinks a little earlier, obviously in your sort of introduction of how you got involved in the music, and of course with your dad's vinyl collection, Vinyl Kids, records, and obviously he's got the Kinks and things like that, and loves his soul and blues. Let's finish that off then with the Kinks and a dedicated follower of fashion, which I think is you. Okay, just to recap them, we've got the Black Pumas, and check them out if you like your Sam Cooke sound alike anyway. That might be worth checking out. That's the Black Pumas. Head over to amazon.co.uk, find Jason Disley there. You will find lots and lots and lots of books and stuff that Jason is doing. Obviously, if you bookmark the page, obviously the new stuff will come up on there, and obviously you'll be the first ones to see it as well. Obviously, check him out on Jason Disley on the Facebook. Be his friend. He wants friends, you know. It's very lonely when he's at the top of his game, because he's the only one doing it, I think. As far as we know, he's the only one out there sort of doing this style of entertainment, I think. Which I think it is entertainment. Which brings us lastly down to anything else I've missed for you?
No, I think you've got it all there, I think.
Marvellous.
Yeah.
Lovely. Right, so what I'm going to do now, you're a writer, you're a poet, a mover and a shaker, a man about town, a Dandified Clown, soul stylist, a mod, and now you are going to be, sir, a temporary, part-time, a one-off radio DJ, because you are going to not only say thank you very much for listening, but you're also going to announce the Kinks and a song that I think is right down your street, a dedicated follower of fashion. So, Jason Disley, thank you very much. Woo!
Hey, thank you.
It's only me, so we need the help. Okay, so it's over to you, sir. Thanks ever so much indeed. I'll let you introduce that record I think really is suitable for you.
Thank you very much. I've been Jason Disley. Keep on listening to Target Radio, and here is Dedicated Follower of Fashion by the Kinks. Thank you.